All right, welcome back to Time Walk Magic here at MTG Red Zone. We're in round number 11. Daniel Mabey is playing against Jacob Wilson, and of course that is that Jacob Wilson of the Sam Pardee, Matt Nass, and Jacob Wilson trio that you'll see at a lot of team events. Isaac Sears and Galen Falek-Farsa on the other side of the table as well, or Galen. And it looks like we've come in just in time to see a turn one Thoughtseize here down on our Legacy match. And what are we looking at here?
So I'll start with Jacob Wilson just because his list is very similar to Paolo's in terms of it's the 4 True Name Nemesis Noble Hierarch list.
Oh, 1 second, Eduardo. I should mention to our viewers, we are coming in part of the way through the match here. You can see the game updates there. Go ahead, Eduardo.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, Daniel lost game 1. I have Daniel's list in front of me, and I still need time to figure out what's going on. So I will read.
He's got a lot going on, huh?
Oh, it's spicy. So Daniel is playing Turbo Depths. So Dark Depths and Thespian Stage.
Mm-hmm.
And he's essentially using cards like Crop Rotation, Elvish Spirit Guide to try to...
I see Sylvan Scrying and Crop Rotation in hand for him right now, by the way.
Right. So this is a green-black deck that also uses Vampire Hexmage and has access to 3 Urborg's Tome of Yawgmoth, one of which you can see in play, in order to make it more likely to make that turn 2 Dark Depths 2020.
Hexmage, blah, blah, blah. So we see a Thespian Stage in hand right now for Daniel.
Yeah.
And he also has Sylvan Scrying and Crop Rotation.
Yes.
So we could be seeing a 2020 Flying Indestructible sooner than later here if things go well for Daniel Mabey. Now, as it stands, though, he is being Thoughtseized, though he's got a little bit of redundancy. Two different types of cards that can search for other lands, though we'll note I don't see any green mana for him thus far. But there's also a Duress in there that Jacob could consider.
Right. What's actually more interesting here compared to, let's say, other types of land decks you might see with Dark Depths and Thespian Stage is Daniel is going to be, while, Thoughtseize cannot take away the combo, because this deck plays a lot more spells, cards like Thoughtseize and cards like Force of Will become more relevant than they would be most likely against lands because you have more relevant spells to target. And here we just saw one of the weirdest plays you will likely see in your lifetime. A Ghost Quarter destroying a Misty Rainforest that was tapped because it produced black mana for Urborg Tome of Yawgmoth.
What in the world? That's not normal.
Right, and Jacob being on a greedy mana list, mana base with no basics, since you're playing Free Callers and you're playing Noble Hierarch and Deathrite Shaman, so normally there's no need. Can't search a basic, but what's really important here for Jacob, more than any other card, is Wasteland. Mm-hmm. Wasteland is the core of how you can attack Dark Depths. That said, Daniel is actually playing main deck free Pivy Needles, and I'm pretty sure the card he's going to name the most with it is Wasteland. However, Pivy Needle is pretty good, or Pivy Needle, against Jacob Wilson, because Jacob also has access to Jace the Mind Sculptor, so it's a good way to shut down that card, or Deathrite Shaman.
Ooh, off the top, though, I see a Lotus Petal. That is now a green mana source available for Daniel. The first one, he's got, I believe, a pair of Sylvan Scrying now in hand, as well as that Crop Rotation. So, interesting. That is exactly what he needed, a green source of some sort, and he's going to go for Sylvan Scrying here. And if he just goes and searches up his Dark Depths, well, he has all the pieces together here.
Let's see. I just want to make sure I get this right. But yeah, if he plays Dark Depths, then it gets the counters. Now, the thing is, it produces mana because of Urborg Tome of Yawgmoth.
Okay.
And I believe that... However, I believe Thespian Stage is 2 and tap.
It is 2 and tap it, and then it becomes a copy of target land and gains this ability.
Right. So Daniel's not quite there this turn. I don't believe...
No, but because he has already used his land drop, but next turn after, he could do it.
Next turn. He can do it next turn thanks to that Urborg. Being able to tap the Dark Depths for mana. Then the Thespian Stage basically says, I want to be a copy of Dark Depths. The Dark Depths with the counters goes to the graveyard when you choose your legendary permanent. Then the Dark Depths with no counters goes, I don't have counters. Do you want a 2020? Yeah, sure, let's go.
Yeah. How about Indestructible?
How about
I'll throw
flying?
in flying. I'll throw in flying, but that's my final offer.
Final offer.
and,
Also says
and
flying.
it's legendary, and I'm not budging on that.
You're definitely a worse negotiator than Leovold.
I am. Yeah, he makes good deals. I'm still learning. Ponder, shuffle, ponder here for Jacob Wilson. Clearly in desperation mode as he sees the writing on the wall. He knows exactly what's coming. He's going to need. I mean, I was thinking Jace the Mind Sculptor is the best answer, but Daniel's been pretty aggressive about attacking Jacob's mana. The card he took away with that Thoughtseize was actually a Noble Hierarch on turn 1, and then we saw the Ghost Quarter nab that tapped Misty Rainforest. Jacob did follow up with another Misty Rainforest, so he has been able to get some mana going, but he's way behind where he would have been normally. Normally would have had 4 mana by now.
Right, and because of that, Daniel doesn't have to worry about, only has to worry about Wasteland, doesn't have to worry about Jace's bounce ability, and that means that rather than wait for, this is why Daniel's doing the 2020 now.
Why is he doing it now?
Yeah. So basically, if he waits and Jacob just goes Wasteland, that cuts his line totally.
I see.
Because then Daniel can only respond to Wasteland, but he can't start. Jacob can decide to Wasteland. And yeah.
So now Merritt Lays just sits there and stares at you on your turn, Jacob Wilson, and says, come up with something, brainstorm, but I don't know if Jacob even has an answer.
I'm going to check his sideboard right now.
He sure doesn't, at least this game, and that's Merritt Lays taking down Jacob Wilson, evening this match at 1 game apiece for Daniel, maybe. Boom. 2020 gets the job done, it turns out.
And it probably will get the job done next game if it comes out, because only Jace the Mind Sculptor can really stop the flying 2020 tentacle action.
Okay. By the way, we did establish yesterday that Merritt Lays is better. Wow, look at that board. He has Chalice on 1, 2, and 3. Oh, man, that's funny.
Yeah, but that's what happens. However, Sam had Thought-Knot Seers, and Galen had no creatures.
Yeah, and it turns out that was good enough. Does Sam have a waste in his deck or something?
Usually the Eldrazi Tron list play 2 wastes,
Okay.
and yeah, Sam does play 2 wastes.
Yeah,
and
so
he plays
that's how
also,
he was able to cast those at some point.
Yeah, Sam also plays 2 Mind Stones and 4 maps. So getting and free Ghost Quarters. So getting a waste is not actually too difficult.
So when Sam sees a Blood Moon on the other side, he's probably like, whatever.
It's still caught
mildly annoying.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right.
And remember, there were 2 Blood Moons on the other side too. So
yeah,
they did not get the job done there for Galen.
Before we start going into the deep end here, when Standard.
God, look at this board state. So this is Matt Nass versus Isaac Sears, and we've got, well, let's see, a Glorybringer, another Glorybringer, and a Chandra for Matt Nass with the Thopter, and then on the other side, a Chandra, a Bristling Hydra, a Thopter, and a Glorybringer for Isaac Sears. Whoa, these guys are bringing the big hitters out here in the late stages of game number 2. By the way, that was Sam Pardee winning his match. So his team's one of the good. And they're going to need another win from Jacob Wilson or back-to-back wins from Matt Nass here if they're going to win their round. One thing I should mention, by the way, Eduardo, the match we watched prior was 2 teams sitting at X and 2. That's not the case here. These teams are actually at 9 and 1, and they have a loss to give. So they are in a very nice position, especially if they win this round, to put themselves at a good little run towards the top 4.
Yeah, like it's basically going to 10-1 basically means you just have to go 2-1, which is very similar to the old MTGO leagues, like constructed ones in Swiss, where you just have to go 2-1 or better. And that's the interesting math is that going 2-1 is about 4 times more likely than going 3-0.
Wow, it's that much more?
That's
insane.
Well, it's 3 times more. You have free losses to give, but then you also have free 0 that can get you there. So, overall, a victory here would actually be really huge. Neither team would be eliminated, but winning here would give you a much, much, much higher chance of making top 4 than it might look, because it looks only like 1 loss, but it's actually a big difference.
Okay, that's great stuff, and we'll see which one can do it. Also, there was an interesting interaction on Twitter a little bit earlier before you and I were in the booth, and Ben Stark had mentioned that they had played against the Peach Garden Oath a little bit earlier, and he worded it as the two best teams in the world playing against each other. And Sam Pardee actually got on Twitter and said, ahem. He says, look, our team is awesome, and they have won a lot. This is a very accomplished team as well. And he says, look, let's not put the gavel down on who the two best teams are just yet. And as it turns out, they are doing much better in this tournament. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they're a better team, but in this tournament, they're sitting at 9-1, maybe moving to 10-1 with a fortunate swing here in this direction, where the other two teams that Ben was talking about, they're gone.
Yeah, that's fair. But I mean, that's how Magic works, right? It's a game of percentages. Like, sure, you're a favorite to win. That doesn't mean you're necessarily going to.
Right. But it does mean you deserve to win, right?
Oh, that debate. So
is that not how that works?
So for anybody listening from home, you do not deserve to win a single game of Magic in your life.
Good. You're correct.
Not for you or me.
Yeah.
There's no such thing really as deserving. At the end of the day, you're still playing a game. There's a lot of strategy. There's a ton of decisions. But sometimes it comes down to that top deck. It comes down to that decision. And you are playing a game where before you sit down, you accept that this is reality. So, no, you don't deserve to win unless you are delusional.
All right, further question, Eduardo. Do you think that we should make it a rule that in order to enter the tournament, you must publicly accept this reality? Because I know a lot of players who have not. They very much feel that they deserve to win every game and every match that they play. And if they don't, it's some type of moral injustice that's been put down upon them. What did he name? What is that? Can you read it?
Wasteland.
Wasteland. That is not 2 words, but we'll take it.
Yeah.
Can you explain to us, by the way, for people that don't watch as much Legacy, about how Pithy Needle works with lands and that type of thing?
Sure, right.
Because I can't just name like Island, right?
Well, okay, so there was actually a time where that was correct, but it involved...
what was that? I know what you're talking about.
Underworld Connections.
Connections, that's right. What it was. Yes,
so basically what Pithy Needle does is it disables any abilities on the name card, activated abilities. Triggers still happen, of course, that are not mana abilities. So you cannot name Island and go, I'm going to shut down blue mana. Mm-hmm. Right. That would be awful. But yeah, what the Pithy Needle does here is basically it prevents Jacob from being able to use his Wasteland to destroy Daniel's land.
But he can still tap it for mana.
Yeah, of course. So,
dude, chat is going nuts. So you know how I mentioned that the card is called Wasteland,
yes,
not Wasteland. They say we should call it Judge. It's not a legal card name, and that Pithy Needle is irrelevant. He did it again. It's not Death Right, Sean. So those are 2 doing nothing right now.
Yeah. All
right, fine. Well, we'll let him get away with it just because he was being environmentally conscious and used small pieces of paper rather than large ones.
Yeah, if you were like totally environmentally conscious, you would use your life pad to note these cards. But for coverage purposes, we appreciate
we really do. It does make life easier for us and for you, the viewer at home, as well.
How
Painful truths here for Jacob Wilson, so he's going to draw 3.
Yeah. That card even incredible in Legacy. Not taking damage from your own lands as a shock mana base would allows you to essentially, draw free cards and not take too much damage before. But yeah, here Daniel's prepared it all. The Pithy Needles, the land drops. It's all coming down to this moment.
Well, now he's going to go for the counter. So, one thing that Daniel can do that we talked about earlier, there we go, is, he can activate this whenever he wants, right? The Thespian stage, he can do it on end step to play around things like Jace the Mind Sculptor or that kind of thing. And since he already has a Pithy Needle on Wasteland, he must feel safe in doing so.
Yeah, that's correct. The only thing that Jacob could do that would stop Daniel at instant speed would be if Jacob has drawn one of his copies of Abrupt Decay and plays a Wasteland. And then in response to the activation goes, Abrupt Decay your Pithy Needle on Wasteland, use mine. Thank you. But apart from that, Daniel is very correct in just passing the turn and waiting because of the Jace minus being so powerful, because it is far more likely than the scenario I just described.
Right. And Jacob's deck is not the stifle style deck, right? He's playing a grindy mid-range type deck. He's not looking for those short-term gain type cards, so not something that Daniel's going to need to worry about. And Daniel, he's going for it here. At Thespian Stage copies Dark Depths. As you mentioned before, Legend Rule kicks in. Dark Depths goes away, and there we go. Merit Lage, if this thing is allowed to survive, it's just a one hit. It's 20/20, indestructible, flying. All he has to do is turn it sideways, and if Jacob can't do anything about it, that's just going to be game.
There's no card in Jacob's list that can
He just
do
has
anything.
literal nothing, huh?
Nothing. Once this is in play, that's basically it.
Yeah. And here's a duress as well, and Jacob says, I'm going to concede to the duress, and that does it. Daniel maybe picks up his match 2-1 over Jacob Wilson and evens things up at 1 match apiece, which means this standard, that mucked up board state that we saw earlier, ended up going to Matt Nass. He evened things up, and there's a 1-game decider here in Time Walk on round 11. We're going to see who wins this round.
This is the red zone, right? This is how you do it. Always coming down to those deciders.
Of course. This is exactly how we do it in the red zone.
Yeah. So here, Isaac has an extraordinarily powerful opener. Matt Nass not being able to deal with the Servant, and Chandra on turn free.
This is kind of appropriate that it comes down to this, too, because the other two formats tend to be a lot more diverse, a lot more variant. This is going to be a grind fest, right? I mean, we are going to see resource management put into play here by both of these players, and in fact by both of these teams here in Standard, because remember, since the other two matches are over, they may just be sitting right next to each other, helping each other out as well.
Yes. Yeah, I'm fairly certain that this is the proper free v free. Not just each person playing their own game in their own match. This is the proper let's go.
They're also playing very quickly. Thank you, gentlemen. We do appreciate that.
But yes, here normally the play pattern with Chandra is usually that you plus first, then you minus, get some mana, and get ahead on the board. So it's very likely that Isaac took down this game, unless Mad Nass had a Chandra's defeat.
All right, well, it sounds like they're calling future matches here, which means, unfortunately, we must depart. Because we're going to have live magic for you lined up here in just a minute. And so I'm just going to tell you who wins this match, as we're not going to be able to finish it here in Time Walk. It's Isaac Sears. He beats Matt Nass and puts Sears, Falak Farsa, and maybe at 10-1, and really with a nice shot of making the top 4 here on Team Trios. This is no small feat. We often see 3 teams of all pros and then maybe 1 semi-pro team in the top 4. And this is one of the semi-pro style teams, and they might find themselves in there. So congratulations to them on putting themselves in such a good position and defeating such a tough team. We're going to be back with more live Red Zone for you right after these messages.